Hey, it's Lucie Pierro at Breathe Music Live Sessions. I want to share with you an interview I did with professional singer Clar Killoran. Clar has been studying with me for about a year now. She is one of the hardest working women I know, hardest working people I know in music, live music down here in South Florida. She has multiple projects. She works with multiple bands. She gigs all the time. So a lot of the work that we do together here at Breathe Music is around vocal health, around taking care of her body, and really knowing your body and knowing your limits. And that's something that I teach a lot here, that I coach my students through, because it's so important to be in good mind and body, to have a good mental outlook around the work that we do as live performance musicians. And we had a really open, honest conversation. We got to talk about what to do when you lose your voice, what to do when your voice is struggling after a lot of gigging and a lot of work, a lot of use. We all reach that point when we need to take a break. And we also need to know how far we can push ourselves, and we have to work on our endurance and the discipline around all of that. So I was so excited to sit down with her and have a chat. So check it out. So yeah, I have so much empathy for people who work in service, and for people like you who are in service jobs. You know, it's so physically demanding on your body, on your instrument. And I just wanted to talk with you about how you're managing that, like how it's all going for you. You're a busy working musician, like gigging all the time. You said you had 10 gigs last week?
Yeah.
10 in a row?
10 in a row. It was, I'm telling you, it's like make hay when the sun shines. It's, yeah, definitely. So I started last year singing professionally full time, and I only had a couple of gigs a month, and I really try to hone in on my craft and I worked on myself in order to become better. And now after a year of consistently working on myself, promotion, marketing, it's falling into place, and I'm now super busy, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
To get paid work and something that I love.
Yeah.
A lot of musicians dream of that, so I'm very fortunate, very grateful.
It's amazing. You've done so much work. You're such a hard worker.
I think that's the Irish mentality, right? It's like, get to work.
So you've had some vocal issues lately. You've been
For
a little
sure.
concerned, and I know you've been training with me for a while, coming in, and you've been building in warm-ups and certain things. But I want to just kind of get to the root of some of those problems and really just kind of look at the scope of the changes that have happened in your voice over the last 6 to 8 months. Can you describe specific symptoms that you've been experiencing in your voice? So anything related to pain, tension, strain, stress, is there anything that you're noticing when you're in times of trouble?
For sure. So I'm doing a lot of gigs back to back, I feel my voice gets lower, and it gets more kind of husky, and I feel pain. I do feel like pain in my throat, and my voice isn't where I want it to be at. So then I get a little stressed out. I'm like, am I going to be able to sing? Am I going to be able to hit those high notes? And what I do in that scenario is I warm up in the morning. I wake up, I hydrate a lot of water. I drink a lot of water throughout the gigs. I don't drink alcohol. It dehydrates you. I don't drink anyway, but I drink a lot of water throughout the gigs, and that really, water is your best friend. For sure, a lot of water throughout the day and a lot of water during the gigs. Once I wake up and I do that, I'll normally have a hot tea, and then I will go through a vocal warm-up, and I'll see and then I can gauge where my voice is at vocally on that warm-up. I can see, and I notice a huge difference after a period of rest, and I know when I'm feeling good, and I know I'm like, okay, I'm on point, everything's good, it's feeling good. I know after show 8, 9, once I do my warm-up, I'm like, those high notes aren't really, sometimes I can't hit them. Sometimes I'm doing the warm-ups and they're not there. It's air.
So at that point, when you're doing those warm-ups, is your throat hurting when you're not making any noise? Or is it only when you're trying to vocalize that you're feeling the pain?
It's almost like a lump. It's almost like a lump in your throat. Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Okay, so you were saying that in the morning when you get your day started and you're getting really hydrated, which is so good. That's like number one. And you've had rest and you've had vocal rest, even if it's for a period of an hour where you have like concentrated vocal rest is so beneficial for the swelling, the inflammation that's happening when you're having some vocal issues. So when you're in your warm-ups and you feel like that sound isn't there, it's not coming out, and you know that there's some inflammation there. So what's kind of your next line of defense? Like, what do you do to try to overcome some of those issues?
I see where my body's at, and I don't push it, and it's like, am I at a level where I can get through the gig at a high enough performance and just really then carefully choose my songs. And there's songs that are harder to sing. And so I think, first of all, assessing where you're at vocally after you warm up, and give yourself time in the morning, and sometimes as well I'll warm up again before the gig, and it's just a little 10-minute warm up. That's all I do in the morning. I'll warm up, and sometimes start the day from moving and hydrating and stuff like that.
Tell me about moving.
Just like I love to do yoga, but I love walking, and I'm kind of just like.
So do you think that makes a difference with how your voice sounds?
Yoga for sure, because you're in tune with your body and you're breathing, and really getting to know your body. Breathing is huge for singing, and I didn't know that before I met you. Like breathing and posture, those two things, really helped me hone in on my craft, and not straining the neck, and because I would sing from my neck almost, and really kind of my jaw and push it. But where it's supposed to be relaxed, it's not coming from my neck,
It's so incredible, and it makes sense. We know our vocal cords are somewhere in our neck, right? They're a little bit lower than sometimes we notice, but that's kind of our thought is like, okay, we're singing from our throats, we're singing from our neck. But when we start to embody the whole practice of singing with our entire instrument, which is our lungs, our ribs, our back, all of our extremities, like everything is involved. And when we're holding stress, or when we're tight, or when we're pulling down, when we're tired, everything isn't going to be fired up and working. Our blood flow is not going to be the same. Our blood pressure is going to be different. So the way that our voice sounds is going to be affected by all of that. So I love that you brought up moving, because even if it's just light stretching or going for a walk or getting warm, hot showers and warm liquids, it's giving our body everything that it needs to feel loose and free. And letting all of that sound resonate through our whole body. Like our head voice resonates in our face, our chest voice resonates in our chest and our backs. And when we don't have full access to all of that, it's going to limit our voice. Sure, our vocal cords produce that sound. And if they're swollen or if we're having vocal issues, it's going to be more challenging. But at least we can set the stage for our whole instrument to be warm and to be primed for singing.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you sound like me. One of what I want to be perceived as is an entertainer. I love moving to the music and dancing and high energy. And what I learned at the beginning is when you're high energy and you're moving and you're in the song, you lose your vocal technique. So at home, I would practice dancing and singing at the same time. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. It's like running on a treadmill and trying to sing. That's training right there.
Yep.
Yeah. Running and trying to sing.
I think Flea does that. He was talking about when he's training for his concerts, like he runs on a treadmill and is like moving and singing and like getting ready to play bass, but like getting his voice ready.
Right.
It's aerobic. It's a sport. I'm sorry. It's a sport
for sure.
Awesome. I want to talk to you about those days. Like, I know you were sick a few months ago. I think you had COVID, like COVID went through, or, when you're dealing with illness and you know that your voice cannot produce, like, what do you do in that situation for your gigs? So like, do you have someone you can call? Like, how do you approach that?
Absolutely. So when I know I'm physically not able to do a gig, I network with a lot of musicians, and I have people that I can call, and I don't call up the venue and be like, hey, I'm sick, sorry. It's having a backup plan. because your voice can be temperamental, as with anybody in the band. You know, somebody could break their arm, or guitar player, or the drummer, or anything like that. And that's, you never know. So for me, I always provide a replacement, and and then that keeps a good working relationship with your venue, because venues, if you don't show up and if you cancel last minute, that there's so much competition here in South Florida that you're gone. Like, and you also have to vet the people that you are bringing on as your replacement. They're not going to be the same. No two acts are the same, but the same, like I preferably try and bring on a female artist that sings the same songs, because that's what the venue wanted to book. They might not necessarily be Irish, you know, but not all my songs are Irish. But rather than, and then kind of go down the scale, okay, all my female artists, if none of them are available, I'll then get a male performer. Like that's kind of going down the list and seeing, and providing a backup. And in turn, you're also, it's worked for me, vice versa. I've got gigs where a friend of mine, who me and her cover a lot of the same gigs, and we have a good working relationship. Her son was super sick, and I jumped in, built a gig for her, and it's like we're all independent. We all work independently, but it's almost like we all work together, because we all work in the same venues. We kind of do the same songs. We work in and around. We're one big family, which I love, and it's almost like we do work for the same people. It's just like,
yeah.
It's ourselves. I love it a lot.
It's so awesome to hear you say that, because number one, it's like you're maintaining a good relationship with your employer, right? So that you can come back. You're not just giving up. But the thing that I love the most is that you know at what point that it's not good for you to go out there and gig, that it's not healthy for you. I worked with a lot of musicians that they show up anyway when they're sick, and then they've dealt with like massive health problems, and then they end up losing way more gigs down the road. So I think knowing your body and knowing what you're capable of and knowing your limits, and you know, it takes time to figure that out. We have to test the waters, but knowing when you're just not able to do it, and knowing that you can call out, and building those relationships so that you're able to take care of yourself is huge. And I think that speaks volumes for like any industry or business. You know, we don't have to kill ourselves to get to the gig. If we're sick, especially if we're having vocal problems and we can't sing, there's no point in pushing it if you can find someone to replace you. So
for sure.
And I think huge.
I think that's down to a lot too of your mentality. Like, you know, you don't, like, if you have a lack mentality, you'll be like, I have to do this gig and I have to do this. But if you look at it, I'm providing, you know, work for someone else, and it swings around and it comes back to you. It's like, if you have this like abundance mindset of you know, it's like I'm providing for someone else and somebody else is going to provide for me whenever I need it, and it's just all going to work out.
That's awesome. Yeah. Raise the vibration.
Yeah.
All right. I have a couple other specific questions before we finish up. So what are your habits like before and after a gig around like food and energy? And
Sure. They definitely have changed. Back when I first started, I was so nervous. I couldn't eat, and I noticed a huge energy and like decrease, almost like adrenaline was getting me through the gig, but afterwards it was like whoosh, and then the next day, because I wasn't using the energy in my body, it was adrenaline that was getting me through the gigs. It wasn't the food that I was fueling myself with. And that's now I fuel my body with good food. You know, I'll have eggs in the morning, oatmeal, and then I'll have like a good meal around lunchtime. Like, so I'm not super heavy. I'll have like rice or pasta or something that will fuel me, because I see a lot of my gigs as high cardio, like use a lot of energy, and so I'll feed up on that. A lot of water. I do love Celsius energy drinks.
True, like those B vitamins, you can't go wrong with the B vitamins.
I chug one of those before a gig, and then that's me. I'm like, yeah, ready to go. So just definitely like look at food and food and relationships with food. Everyone's different. Everyone has their story. Everyone has a different relationship. But the mentality of, I need this fuel to help, or this food to help fuel me and make me better. Yeah. Okay, is this going to nourish me? Is this going to help me?
Yeah.
And, you know, I love chocolate and sugar and spicy. I love curries, and I love, coffee. I've cut out in coffee a lot. I drink tea. It's less acidic. And then I try not to eat after the gig, because I used to do that. I didn't eat before the gig, and then I would eat afterwards, and then it would sit in my stomach. And then
I was the queen of like burger and fries and milkshake right after the gig. Like, I'm starving. I haven't eaten all day. And then you eat this big meal, and then you don't sleep well, and you're exhausted, but you can't sleep because you're so full. But I love what you said about having a meal earlier in the day. Yeah. So you have time to digest. Like, you never want to eat right before. Maybe for musicians, but for singers, it's tough because your stomach's right by your diaphragm. You're moving the food around. So it's good to wait like 2 hours before you sing, like finish your eating and make sure that you fuel yourself.
Yeah, I think a good big lunch that will fill you up, and then I always have an emergency banana. Bananas are great. Throw it in your backpack. Like, bananas are great. They give you the energy. They're nutritious. They don't fill you up too much. So I'll have a big lunch, and then I'll have a Celsius and a banana right before the gig, and then I feel good. The emergency banana or granola bar. Yes. I have one of the others sitting in my bag.
Yeah.
And I have to eat the banana or I'll go off. So
gotta eat it.
You gotta eat it.
You have such a good routine. That's excellent.
I didn't realize.
Care of yourself.
I didn't realize it till I was talking to you. But yeah, you always think you can do better, right?
Oh my gosh, you have a good routine, and it's like you're paying a lot of respect to your body and taking care of it and doing the thing, and like always like changing up the process, like refining it and taking care of yourself. That's good. That gives you longevity. You'll be singing up to your 90s.
Woohoo!